Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter when the ships are sailing. And I'd like to welcome to the show our co-host from LA, Chris. How you doing today, Chris?
Doing pretty good. Steve, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Hey, if I was going to ask you this, if I threw this out there, how would you respond to it? Take off a...
I can't tell if you're like being Canadian and saying like, the plane's going to take off, eh? Or if you're saying like, take off a shirt.
And I have just lost 2/3 of the audience because they have no idea what I just said. But I know that there's somebody out there. Take off to the Great White North, eh?
Oh, so it's sort of Canadian.
Sort of Canadian, but it was from a show a long time ago. I totally date myself. I'm dating you as well because you don't know what I'm talking about.
Because I thought you were saying take off a shirt.
Well, with that, I'd like to welcome back to the show the third guest ever to appear on the DCL podcast, all the way from Chicago. I'd like to welcome back to the show Jessica. How are you doing tonight, Jessica?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming back. And we are going to talk about you and your husband's cruise last year to the great state of Alaska. And that's why I brought up the Great White North stuff, Chris.
Yeah, because Alaska is my favorite cruising destination, at least so far. And I'm so excited to talk to you about it. It sounds like you had an amazing trip.
It was a trip of a lifetime. It was amazing. I can't wait to talk about it.
Exciting. Okay, so which cruise did you go on to Alaska?
So we went on the May 27th cruise to Alaska on the Disney Wonder of last year in 2019.
Okay, so May 27th, that would have been pretty early in the season, right? Was it their first sailing, or maybe they had only done a couple sailings up until that point?
Yeah, it was their second sailing in Alaska.
So this is kind of a bucket list cruise, right, Chris, that we all kind of want to go on. And what made you and your husband finally to decide to pull the trigger and go on one of these?
It was actually, I was listening to your podcast and hearing someone talk about Alaska. And I was just, I never thought about doing kind of a cold weather vacation, but just hearing all about the Inside Passage and the gorgeous nature and glaciers and things. I was really intrigued, and I started looking up photos, and I was hooked. So we planned this vacation out a year in advance because it was a bigger trip. The rest is history. It was really cool.
So I know that you are a Disney fan. You do Run Disney. You've obviously been on our podcast before, but what's your sort of like Disney story in case people haven't heard your previous episodes? How many cruises have you been on? What's your sort of tie-in to Disney?
Yeah, so our Alaska cruise is our fourth Disney cruise.
Are you gold yet?
I'm not. We're hoping to do another cruise this fall, which will put me at 5 cruises, and then the next cruise will be gold. But
gold.
I'm
exciting.
So close.
Okay.
So close.
4 Disney cruises. Where did those go to?
We did basically 4 and 5 night cruises, kind of to, Rest in Caribbean and Bahamian cruises. We've done kind of more the tropical vacations, but I actually grew up going to Disney World a lot. My grandma lived in Sarasota, Florida, so we would go visit her on spring break and go to Disney for a day or two. I've always loved Disney. I love going as an adult. I love doing Run Disney. It's my new favorite thing besides doing the cruises.
So you're no stranger to cold weather living in Chicago, but this, leaving in May is going to be kind of probably a little bit of colder weather cruise. What were some of the resources? What did you kind of look into to kind of prepare yourself for an Alaska cruise as far as what to buy, clothes-wise or whatnot?
So I scoured Pinterest and I looked at a lot of blogs on packing tips. I basically I did a lot of Googling, a lot of Pinteresting. I bought a couple of books on Alaska And it's funny you say that, it's generally, they say earlier in the season, the weather's colder and a little bit drier perhaps. And then later in the season, it's warmer and perhaps a little bit rainier. But we actually had kind of record warm weather in May, which we had packed so many layers and cold weather gear, and we needed a little bit of it, but it was definitely warmer than we were expecting.
It's complicated in Alaska because the weather is so unpredictable. I think no matter what time of year you go up there, you need to pack for anything. Like, you need to pack knowing that, like, it's not a terrible idea to bring a pair of shorts and some t-shirts, and also you definitely should bring some warmer weather and some rain gear type things, just because it's super unpredictable, and sometimes even what's forecasted ends up not even being what happens.
For sure. It was really nice. My husband and I both had kind of waterproof backpacks, like packable backpacks, and we would pack a lot of different layers in them, so we could wear a short sleeve shirt, and then pack, a quarter zip and a rain jacket, and even like a packable down, and just have options with us every day. And that was super helpful.
Besides the clothes and the layers and stuff like that, the only other thing that I totally recommend, and you can throw out whatever you think goes well, Chris, but is you want to have a good pair of shoes, like maybe some waterproof shoes, just in case you're out there and the weather does change and it starts raining. So whether those are boots, I mean, you don't have to have like snow boots or that kind of stuff. That's not what I mean. But there are some like more waterproof type hiking shoes that might be more comfortable to wear in case you're in changing conditions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Before our cruise, we ran over to REI and got some like hiking boots that had waterproof sort of like toe and like bottom portions, just so that you could like be in wet weather. And those are actually really great for us. We went hiking in a very wet forest in Juneau, and it was perfect. So we were really glad that we brought those. I think it's a great idea.
Before we get into get you up to Vancouver and we get on board the ship and everything like that, Alaska a little bit different as far as the port excursions, and we'll talk about the port excursions a little bit later. But what were some of the resources that you used to kind of think about what you guys wanted to do up there? It's a little bit different planning than just going to an island and going out on the beach.
I would do research, and I'd have the port excursions kind of in one tab, and then I went to TripAdvisor and I looked up kind of the top things to do in each of the ports, and then I kind of compared and contrasted and really read reviews on what people enjoyed. So I used other resources, and that was very, very helpful.
Chris, what were some of the things that you guys used to kind of plan your cruise?
A little bit of everything. I think we did do some online searching and Googling and things like TripAdvisor. We also bought a guide because I can be a little bit nerdy about stuff like that. And I read the guide and highlighted things and underlined them. I also listened to some podcasts, things like that. So everyone who's listening to this episode is well on their way to preparing for an Alaskan cruise.
I love it. Well, so the Disney Wonder leaves out of Vancouver. Had you guys been to Vancouver before? And what were your plans? Did you spend some time in the city beforehand? What did you guys have planned, Jessica?
Yeah, so I went to Vancouver as a very small child, but I haven't been there in a very long time. We flew into Vancouver 2 days before we sailed, and we stayed kind of in the Gastown district. We had a fantastic time. We went out to the Capilano suspension bridges. For people that have never done that, it's kind of outside of town, and you take a bus out there, and it's just gorgeous. It's super green. It's a rainforest, and they have a bunch of suspension bridges and overlooks and places to hike. And it was wonderful. We explored Stanley Park, and we ate great food. It was super fun.
Vancouver's iconic and beautiful, and I think it's one of the best cities that I've spent some time in. I also would say it's super walkable. Did you find it walkable, and were you able to sort of tour the city on foot, or how did you get around?
I think we only took one Uber. We took an Uber out to Stanley Park, but for the most part, we walked everywhere. We picked our hotel pretty close to the cool eating districts and, some cool shopping areas. So we found it very, very walkable. It was very safe, very clean. We had a really great time.
By the way, no way are you getting me on those Capilano suspension bridges. Forget it. I found it really, really fun. My husband was a little bit nervous. I mean, it is a far way down. Yeah, I'm pretty much terrified of heights, so there's no way you'd get me on those. But it does look pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, you guys leave on the Disney Wonder out of Vancouver, pretty much an iconic sail away out of that city. I can't remember, had you been on the Wonder before, or was this your first time?
This is our first time on the Wonder.
Okay, so we don't have to get into the nuts and bolts, but do you have anything as far as getting out of or getting on board the embarkation? Sometimes it's a little bit longer process because you have to go through customs as well.
It was a little bit longer, but we had one of the earlier boarding times, so we had no problems getting on.
So, and where did you stay? Did you stay close to downtown? So, you stayed in the Gaslamp district, so that's a pretty easy. Did you walk over, or did you take an Uber over?
We had a lot of luggage, so we could have walked if we had been smarter packers, but we ended up taking an Uber.
Well, you guys step on board the beautiful Disney Wonder there in Vancouver. What were your thoughts of her as you got on board?
I'm always blown away. Whenever I step on a Disney cruise ship, I love, walking into the main atrium. It always just takes my breath away. It's such a magical, special feeling.
I know that feeling. It's magical. I'm wondering, had you been on the Wonder before?
Not been on the Wonder, but I have been on the Magic.
So you knew a little bit about what to expect in terms of size and layout, but it was your first time seeing Ariel in all her glory and the red chandelier.
I loved it. And Ariel was kind of one of my favorite princesses growing up. So it was awesome.
That atrium statue looks slightly different than the other three, so I always think of it as being a bit iconic.
Chris, do you know what the red atrium chandelier is?
What, it's supposed to look like?
Yeah.
I don't know if I do. A nautilus? No.
I know it.
Okay, go ahead, Jessica. You could tell.
So it's, to my knowledge, it's kind of fashioned after the red kind of flower in Ariel's hair. Is that right, Steve?
That's it.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the shell around the neck, but no, it's the red flower in the hair.
It is. I learned that on the Art of the Theme Show tour when we went on the Wonder a while ago. So yeah, good one, Jessica.
Okay, so you get on board and you make your way to your cabin. I'm curious, what kind of cabin did you book and what did you think of it?
So we did an inside stateroom, and it was our first time doing an inside stateroom. We typically go with the veranda staterooms, but for the Alaska cruise, it was about twice the price. So we decided to kind of save that money for port excursions, and we did an inside stateroom. And honestly, it was way more spacious than I was expecting. We had a great stateroom, and it was fairly quiet. I think it was on the 5th floor. It was great.
Okay, so 5th floor inside stateroom on the Wonder. 5th floor is nice because it's pretty centrally located. You could just go up a couple decks to see all the sort of on the 5th floor is the kids clubs, and then right below that would be the atrium and some of the food options, and then above you would be other cabins and then cabanas and all that stuff. So I feel like the 5th floor is a great option for people who want to be central to everything.
It was very convenient.
We did an inside cabin when we went to Alaska too, but we're kind of, are you and your husband kind of the same way? We're just always out and about. We're generally not in our stateroom too much unless we're sleeping. So for us, I mean, there's just so many views around the ship that you can get as you're sailing up through Alaska. It really didn't have a huge effect for us. How about you guys?
I would say, we're very similar. We really wanted to kind of stake out a place because we didn't have a veranda. We wanted to make sure that we had a place on the pool deck to be able to kind of just watch the world go by on those sea days and on the Dawes Glacier day. We would kind of get up early and get our spots. But it was honestly, I was expecting there to be a lot of, people trying to stake out places, but we had no problems. We were able to kind of move move around that pool deck and get different views. So it was, not having a veranda was not a big deal at all.
Yeah, I think there's this notion that like it's not even worth doing Alaska if you don't have a veranda. And I think you make a really good point that one, you have deck 4, which wraps around the entire ship, so you can have oceanfront views whenever you want them. But also you have access to the upper decks, which gives you some great, amazing views. You may just have to be a little bit more strategic about getting out early or staking your spot on busy days or scenic cruising days.
So when we went up there too, I remember going up to Tracy Arm, and we'll talk about your trip up to Endicott Arm, Jessica. But I kind of remember, it wasn't quite like the towel situation around the pools where people are out there at 6 a.m. putting their towels down to stake out their spot. It seemed like as the ship went up, people kind of moved around and milled about a little bit to see the different views and see what was on the other side of the ship. So it really wasn't as big a deal as maybe you would think.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Well, let's talk about Chris's favorite thing, food.
I love food. Okay, so let's see. My first question is always, did you do a sit-down lunch or cabanas when you got on the ship?
We did cabanas. I love choice.
Okay, and you said you got an earlier boarding time, so was it super busy when you got there? What was it like in cabanas?
It was not very busy. I think it was probably like normal lunchtime crowds, maybe a little bit less than like a typical sea day. And we had no problems getting a great table, outside with a wonderful view. And the food, it's funny. It's like the first day of a cruise. You kind of, you forget how good the food is. It's like a really warm welcome home.
Right. It's a warm welcome home because you didn't have to cook it, and it all feels like it's free, even though Christy would be like, it's not free, it's included. But right, I totally get that. Okay, so that's how you felt about cabanas. What about the main dining rooms? Oh, we won't have time to go through all of them, but just sort of like, what's your general take of the main dining rooms? Did you like your dining rotation? Did you have first or second seating? That sort of thing.
We had second seating, and we were seated with, I think, 3 other couples. They were all around the same age. I think they did a really good job of seating arrangements. We did love all of the restaurants. My favorite by far was Tiana's place. I love like Louisiana cooking, and I love beignets. So that was awesome. I think we had, all of our meals were really good. What I did like, especially about the sailing, was that they brought in kind of regional inspired dishes. So a lot of fresh salmon. I think they had venison sausage one night. They had Alaskan beers, which was very cool. So dining was spot on this trip.
Steve, you always ask about that like barbecue on the deck. Do you want to ask about that?
Yeah, it's that is one of the cool things about the specialty sailings, like Alaska, when they go up through different parts of Europe, or they will add, different flavors from that part of the world, which I really love that. So that's cool to see that they added salmon and or reindeer sausage usually up there. So the day that we went up to the glacier, they had a barbecue on the back of the ship for lunch. Did they do anything like that for you guys?
They didn't. Yeah, I was hoping that they would, because I had read about it and I'd heard about it, but they were not doing it, at least for my sailing in May.
I kind of wonder if they've done away with it, because I haven't heard anybody that's had it in a long time. But that was just kind of a cool way where you didn't even have to go back into cabanas. You just go to the back of the ship as you're listening to the naturalist talk about the scenery that you're seeing, and you could be munching on your little salmon or reindeer sausage. So I always loved that. Beignets. Oh, amazing, huh, Chris?
Yes, I love beignets. We have them at Disneyland year-round, and I know they have them at Disney World. But I think there's probably something really special, because the only ship of the 4 that you can get beignets on is the Wonder. And to tie it in with Tiana's place, I don't think anybody has ever watched The Princess and the Frog and not desperately wanted some beignets after watching that. So I love that they have beignets that they can sort of get hot and fresh and tie it into that restaurant. It sounds amazing. And I have not been on the Wonder. Seth and I are going in October, and it'll be our first chance to try Tiana's place. We're super excited.
for longer sailings, you kind of cycle through the restaurants twice. And our first time in Tiana's, I was very excited about the beignets. And then I was so excited that the next night we were at Triton's, kind of the French style restaurant, and our server brought over beignets from Tiana's place, and it just made my life.
I love it when the servers do that.
They did not have to do that. They went out of their way to delight me and the other people at my table. So it was awesome. You're gonna have such a great time.
Also, you touched on something that Seth and I really love. I don't know, do you have kids?
No.
Okay, so Seth and I also don't have kids and sometimes travel just as a couple. And I love Disney's seating plans, how they really are thoughtful about who they put together. Did you make friends with the folks at your table? Did you ever see each other throughout the rest of your cruise?
We did see the other couples throughout the cruise, and it was really fun because it was like we would go off, during the day, and we'd have our port adventures, and then we'd come back and talk about what we did. And it was really cool to see people, throughout the ship, and it was almost like we had connections and we had friends. So it made this big ship feel a little bit smaller.
That's awesome. So it was a longer cruise. There are a couple of sea days on these Alaskan sailings. I want to say there might be 2 because they do that sort of like scenic cruising. Did you do Palo brunch? Did you do Palo dinner? What about any specialty dining?
It was our first cruise not doing any specialty dining. We've done Palo and Remy in the past, but we did no specialty dining on this cruise. We did like a VIP character breakfast. I think that was at Animator's Palette. That was included. So
included. So it was like a ticketed event that you just got tickets for ahead of time?
Right, exactly.
Anything else about the food that you want to make special note of?
So something I was not expecting on our, I guess this is more drinks, but it's all kind of related.
It's all consumed.
It's all consumed, right? So on the Glacier Day, so they did not have the barbecue in the back of the ship. But they did have like specialty drinks. They were serving the specialty drinks in this really cool, branded Alaskan Cruise tumbler, and you could get, hot cider or hot chocolate, and you can mix in, Bailey's or something like that. So that was a really nice touch, and it just felt like it felt really cozy to be kind of looking at the scenery with a hot beverage.
Also, somehow that hot chocolate tastes better than normal hot chocolate.
It is magic hot chocolate.
I think there's just something about Disney and Alaskan Cruise where you're like, I need hot chocolate now.
It does not get better.
So before we get into like your port excursions and stuff like that, as a couple, what were some of the fun things that you guys got to do around the ship or that you enjoyed?
We definitely checked out the naturalist presentations. It was very cool to, like, we would go to a presentation like the day before we were at Skagway. They'd have a presentation at Skagway, and they talked about the gold rush and some of the history of Skagway, some of the flora and fauna that you can see around there. And so it really helped us kind of appreciate what we were seeing and what we were going to experience. So we did a lot of the naturalist presentations, and I can't do a Disney cruise without doing the Art of the Theme Show tour.
Same. It doesn't matter how many times I go on, I'm like, I'm doing the Art of the Theme Show.
Well, you always learn something new, even if you do the same, even if you do the show, on the same ship. There's always something new to learn.
Yeah, well, don't they say that they have like 70-page scripts and they can only do like a couple of pages worth of actual like storytelling each tour? So you get a different thing each time.
I agree. I love it. I'm such a Disney nerd. I just love all the trivia.
I usually also choose to go to the adult-only version of that tour.
Oh, I should check that out next time.
Yeah, it's just like Not that I don't like kids. Kids can be great, but it's also nice. They sometimes take you into like different parts that they think the kids might not be as interested in, and that's always fun.
So, are you a Frozen fan? Did you guys go see Frozen, or did you give it a pass this time?
I'm a big Frozen fan. My husband is very kind, and he'll come with me to see these shows. We both really enjoyed Frozen, and we always enjoyed all of the live shows, but Frozen was really special.
And that was your first time seeing it? Had you seen Frozen? I guess Frozen wasn't on the Fantasy yet at this point. And then had you ever seen Frozen at California Adventure?
Nope, this is my first time seeing it.
It's really, really cool. I think of the shows on the ship, it's one of our favorites. There's nothing like a dress transformation mid in the middle of Let It Go that just gives you all the chills and feels.
Oh, I loved it. It was, and I mean, it was, yeah, all of the set and the costumes, and it was awesome. It did not feel like we were on a cruise ship.
While we're talking about entertainment, was there any other entertainment highlights or shows that you were really into?
There was an awesome ventriloquist. His name was Michael Harrison, and he was hilarious. He was fantastic. There were some comedians, and there was a husband and wife magician duo called Kyle Knight and Misty, and that was awesome. I've never really seen live magic, but they were remarkable. It was very cool.
Did you go to the adult shows too, or did you just see the main shows in the theater?
We saw the main shows in the theater, and we would pretty much always go to the adult shows at night, and that was really cool because it's a much smaller venue. They can kind of relax a little bit. We did it all. I just eat that stuff up. So I wanted as much live entertainment as humanly possible.
Yep. Seth and I are the same. Even if we've seen the show before, we'll probably be there again. I think the tip that Steve mentioned of like going to the adult only versions of those variety acts is a great tip. They usually have a little bit of different material, and you're right, they kind of relax a bit. It's never like too racy, but they do sort of like tell some different types of jokes and things like that. And I feel like it gives you a different kind of laugh. And I think it's really fun.
Well, anything else about the ship before we move on to really, I think, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard one, isn't it, Chris? I mean, you love to go on the Disney ship just for the ships themselves, but Alaska, just the scenery and all the adventures that you can do along it is pretty telling as well. Anything else about the ship, Jessica? We
spent a lot of time when we were like during sea days. We spent a lot of time in Crown and Fin. I love being in some of the lounges, and I love the Crown and Fin pub because there were so many little Disney Easter eggs. Like they had Mary Poppins umbrella up there. They had little, like they had Pongo's collar. It was really fun to kind of walk around and, find some Disney memorabilia. So I highly recommend, Chris, when you go to the Disney Wonder, when you go on the Disney Wonder, definitely take a look around Crown and Fin.
I love details. I'm going to do it.
I didn't realize they had so many details in Crown and Fin. I'm going to have to go back there again next time when we get back on her. So that's cool. Especially, I love 101 Dalmatians. So anything with 101 Dalmatians, which is kind of obscure to find, that's pretty neat that they have that on there. Well, let's turn to the ports themselves. So you guys leave out of Vancouver. Amazing sail away, huh?
It was gorgeous. The most beautiful sail away I've ever experienced.
I can't remember the name of the bridge, but you go underneath that kind of huge, iconic bridge. It's not quite like going underneath the Golden Gate, Chris, but just an amazing bridge to sail out of Vancouver Harbor. And then you're on your way north. Talk a little bit about the scenery you saw as you made your way up towards Endicott Arm.
I was very surprised at how narrow the inside passage is. I mean, it was almost like you didn't even really need binoculars. Like you could see trees, you could see animals on the shore. We actually saw a lot of whales. I mean, you're so close, it almost feels like you could, I mean, it doesn't really feel like you could reach out and touch it, but you're so close, and there's no bad view on your way up to the Dawes Glacier. It is just gorgeous.
So you mentioned that you saw whales. Did you ever see any other type of wildlife from the ship?
We saw bald eagles. It was kind of too early in the season to see bears, I've heard of people seeing more wildlife, but we saw, it was basically whales and eagles.
Amazing. Yeah, on our cruise, we saw some bears, like a mama bear and cubs running along the shore, looking at the ship, wondering what it was. It was really fun. But you're right that seeing whales from the ship is just like not very common in the Caribbean or some of the other places that Disney sails. So it's pretty cool and special to be up in Alaska and seeing all the different whales up there.
It was beautiful. It was just amazing.
So your glacier day this time is up to Endicott Arm into the Dawes Glacier. What was that day like as far as getting up and seeing the glacier itself? How did that impact you guys, or what were your thoughts of actually seeing a live glacier like that?
They had a naturalist kind of talking through what we were seeing. It was really helpful to have kind of some narration. He wasn't narrating when we were at the glacier, but kind of as we were going up towards the glacier. I think we had like a window where our ship could kind of enter into that I guess it would be like a strait or a fjord, maybe. They had like a smaller boat that was kind of leaving the Wonder to get a closer look. But I felt like we had a very good view. And we had gorgeous weather. It was sunny and blue skies. It was awesome. We sailed up to it, and then they kind of turned the ship around so everyone could kind of get a great view of it. And there was lots of people that were willing to take photos. It was so cool.
Now, my favorite thing about visiting the glaciers is if they happen to be calving. You were pretty early in the season, so I don't know that calving would have been a huge event, but did the glacier happen to calve while you were watching, or no?
I don't think it calved. So this is kind of cool. So we were up on the pool deck, kind of viewing the glacier and taking photos and things. And then we went down to deck 4 because we wanted to kind of get a different view. And it was sort of kind of later as we were leaving the glacier. But we still got some awesome views from that vantage point. But we actually saw them. Disney Cruise Line was grabbing a little like iceberg, like a something that probably calved off earlier from the glacier, and they were bringing it on the ship, and I got to touch it. I got a photo. It was so cool.
Yeah, I've heard that they do that on Disney Cruise Line. I think that's so cool. I've even heard of some cruise lines getting glacier ice and then making drinks with it.
That would be awesome. The coolest part, like we saw the cast members, getting the piece of ice. And before they kind of brought it out, like they were so excited to see it. And they were just as excited as I think the passengers were. It was really cool.
That's fun.
Anything else about your time up seeing Dawes Glacier that you want to talk about, Jessica, before we make our way south to Skagway?
I think that's about it.
Well, from Dawes Glacier, then, you guys hit your first port, the port of Skagway. What did you guys have planned there, and how did that day unfold for you guys?
Yeah, so we actually had booked 2 port adventures. So we did the Skagway Adventure Hike. So that was in the morning. And then we did the Mushers Camp and Sled Dog Experience. And that was in the afternoon. I think this was like my perfect day. The adventure hike was just gorgeous. It was very warm. I think we were wearing, like jeans and like a long sleeve shirt. And that was perfect. The hike itself, you're walking through rainforest. It was not, I wouldn't say it's like generally challenging, but you definitely have to be more mobile in order to kind of get through it, because there's some like ropes that you need to climb up and down. Our guide was so knowledgeable about all of the different plants and animals. She was like kind of a young girl who she goes up there every summer to kind of, do these hikes, and she camps in Alaska, and that was beautiful. There were so many great photo opportunities, and it was awesome. And then in the afternoon, we did, it was the Mushers Camp and Sled Dog Experience. We got in this big bus that took us out to this Mushers Camp. We got an overview of sled dogs and the Iditarod, and we got to meet sled dog puppies, which was just a dream. It was, oh my gosh, like best day ever. I mean, I'm a huge dog fan, so seeing puppies, seeing sled dogs, it was awesome. And then we got in this like, it's called the Unimog, and it's like a all-terrain vehicle that it's got like really, really big wheels or tires, and it was really cool. But we took that up kind of this mountain, and then the sled dogs were attached to like a sled that we all, they had, I think like 6 different sleds, and, groups of 5 or 6 people would get on these sleds, and then the sled dogs would take us for about a mile kind of down this mountain. And it was so fun, and it was so cool. It was like bucket list for me.
Also, puppies.
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't think my day could have got any better. Like, puppies and Alaska.
I mean, also, you were so ambitious doing 2 shore excursions in one day.
Oh my gosh. I was a little bit stressed about that, because I was like, what if we get lost and we miss our sled dog experience? But it all worked out just fine.
Well, and did you book all your excursions through Disney, or did you ever book second party?
For the Skagway port excursions, we did Disney, and then Juneau, we went with a third party, and then Ketchikan was Disney as well.
My youngest son wanted to bring one of those puppies home when we went on our cruise. They were so fuzzy and cute.
Oh my God.
I couldn't imagine that. My oldest son and I and my dad went and did something else, so I missed out on the sled dog puppies. But man, I want to do that next time.
Yeah, I think if we go up to Alaska again, which we definitely will at some point, I could not imagine not doing sled dog puppies.
And maybe they should just rename the cruise that. What cruise are you doing? I'm doing the sled dog puppies cruise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Any like, I know other cruises you can swim with dolphins and stuff, but like puppies, come on.
Chris?
Puppies.
Yeah.
Are you a puppy fan?
Puppies are the most important of all the animals.
All right. I think we've pretty much put an exclamation point on that. So from Skagway, you guys head down to the capital of Alaska, Juneau. What did you guys have planned there?
We went with a third party tour operator called Liquid Alaska Tours. And this was an all-day excursion out to the Mendenhall Glacier. I think there was maybe 10 of us or so, and we hopped in this big bus, and we went over to the Mendenhall Glacier, kind of across the lake from it. And they gave us a ton of gear to wear, and we hopped in this big canoe, and we canoed over through Mendenhall Lake. It was about a 45-minute canoe ride. It was kind of hard work, but it was awesome, just beautiful. And then we hiked up the Mendenhall Glacier, and we went kind of into a little like ice cave inside the glacier, and that was amazing. I think that was my husband's highlight of the entire trip. They gave us waterproof jackets and waterproof pants and kind of big, like almost like hunter boots, but not hunter, not the brand Hunter. They gave us these like attachments that go on the bottom of your shoe that help you kind of grip the ice better, and helmets, of course. So it was amazing. We got so many awesome pictures, and we learned a lot about glaciers. That was amazing. And then we canoed back across the lake, and I think that was like a 9:30 a.m. to a 3 p.m. tour. It was all day.
So you didn't do much else in Juneau besides the tour, or did you walk around after you got back?
So we made a point to, so in each of the ports, we wanted to go to a local bar. So we checked out a bar in Juneau after the tour. And actually I think in Juneau, there was like a salmon, it was like a salmon shack. And I think my husband got a salmon burger. It was amazing. So we got some snacks and checked out a local bar. And that was our Juneau day.
The thing that I love about these ports, and you can talk about this too, Chris, is the fact that you just pull up, for the most part, right downtown. You can walk off and you're right there.
Yeah, I think most ports, in fact, I'm trying to think of, there's one port, which I don't actually think your cruise went to, right? The town attached to it is called Hoonah, but I think they call it something else. Icy Strait Point. Did this cruise go to Icy Strait Point?
It did not.
Okay, so that's one where the town is maybe a 20-minute walk away from the port. But beyond that, there's basically all of the Alaskan ports are like, you could get off the ship, you could walk right into town. There's plenty of things to see, even if you didn't book an excursion. And I think that's a really fun thing about Alaska, because it does allow you to feel like you get to kind of explore.
Definitely. And when we did our Palo Day when we left Juneau, so the other good thing about Alaska is because the sun stays up so late, or so long, I guess, you've got light for so long. So as we were sailing out of Juneau, I just remember, sitting there on the back of the ship, kind of taking in the scenery when we had our Palo dinner with my parents when we went on our cruise. I'm guessing in May it was still pretty light for most of the night for you guys as well, wasn't it, Jessica?
For sure. Yeah, we had a lot of sunlight in May.
So from Juneau, you guys head down to Ketchikan. Did it rain that day while you were there?
It did not.
Oh my gosh. So you were like, that's like one of the rare days in Ketchikan. So what did you guys have planned in Ketchikan?
So we did the Rainforest Zip, Skybridge, and Rappel adventure. That was kind of midday, so that was around lunchtime that we did that. It was really cool. It was zip lining. I think there was like a dozen different, zip lines, and then they had you kind of rappel off of a really high kind of tower. So that was really cool. And I had ziplined before, and it was my husband's first time. So I think, we both got a lot out of it, and there were some gorgeous views. It was pretty memorable.
I love ziplining. It's so fun. It's also like a little daring, but not that daring. And yeah, I think it's great. And Alaska's a great place to do it because it's so lush and green, and it's just a very specific type of evergreen forest that you don't really see anywhere in the Caribbean or other places that Disney sails.
For sure. Yeah, it was, we were like, it was almost like we were like in a forest. We were in a forest, and it was just gorgeous. And yeah, like you said, everything was green and lush, and it was magical. It was awesome.
So if I'm keeping tally, did it not rain any of the days?
Correct. We had like no rain.
That's so unusual. Honestly,
Right.
You're making a great case for going in May.
Well, you know why it didn't rain? Because we had bought all the rain gear. So it was,
right. The rain was like, oh, you spent money preparing for me? I'm not going to show up.
Right. Well, we always bought our rain jackets just in case. And we got really lucky.
There's this type of jacket that Patagonia makes called the Houdini jacket, and they call it Houdini because it can fold up to become the tiniest thing that you can like fit in like a pocket even, or a purse, or like a fanny pack. And we carried those with us everywhere. The only difference is we had to use them in like 3 of the 5 stops that we made. So, but I recommend the rain gear that's like something that you can put away quickly and not take up a lot of space, because you may bring it into the town and not need it, or you may not bring it and realize that you're just going to be soaking wet. So it's better to have it than regret it.
Yeah, and I can second that. I think we bought the Torrent shell jacket from Patagonia, and it was the same thing. You can kind of fold it up inside its pocket, and it's so small when it's all folded up and easy to transport.
So Patagonia, do you want to sponsor our show?
I'm thinking we need to start like a Stitch Fix sort of industry for cruising, where we just, depending upon what cruise you're going on, we send you what you need.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Go ahead, Chris. You had something more important to say.
So the weather was beautiful. Each port you did a thing, and each port you went to a bar. That sounds amazing. Is there any other highlight or thing about your excursions or port days that you want to tell us about before we wrap it up?
We did the zip lining in Ketchikan, but we also made a point to really walk around the town because it is such a cute town. There's a lot of really fun shops and like a lot of cool breweries and things. I think there's a couple breweries, and A lot of people really like the lumberjack show. We didn't get over there to do that, but I think we definitely took some time in each of the ports to just walk around and experience each port, and that was really cool. And it was fun to talk to other people. Each of these ports had a couple of other ships, so we met other people and talked to them about their vacations, and it was awesome.
You know what else I love about this cruise, Chris?
What?
It's like the 4-day on the Dream when you go to
Because it ends in a sea day?
It ends in a sea day before you get back to Vancouver. It's amazing, isn't it, Jessica?
I love a good sea day before you debark.
And that last day is through the Inside Passage, so it's also like a scenic sea day.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's like you're really sad for it to end, but you still get to have gorgeous views and beautiful scenery and wildlife. So it was awesome. It was a great kind of end of the trip.
I think I remember my wife and I being on deck 4 in one of those great, the wooden chairs that are out there on that last sea day, just watching the scenery go by. And I remember seeing some people in kayaks and a couple of fishermen go. I mean, it was just a great way to kind of end the trip. And I think you guys had kind of a similar experience, did you, Chris, when you guys went to Alaska?
Yes. Also, our final sea day was obviously through the Inside Passage, very scenic. And that night, when you're sailing out of the Inside Passage towards Vancouver, there are usually ships sailing in to start their cruise. So that night we were like passing all these other cruise ships that were like near us, and it's like definitely a dance because it's so narrow. And the moonlight was shining, and it was shining in such a way that you could see literally everything as if it was like still bright out. And it just felt like an untouched kingdom of beauty. And I was like, I don't know, it's burned into my memory, those like happy times with friends, because I don't know, it just is, there's nothing like it. I've literally never, in all the ships and all the places I've been, I've never experienced anything quite like sailing so scenically in the Inside Passage.
Those are the amazing memories you make on these different trips. Did you have anything that stood out like that for you guys, Jessica?
I think we had a few mornings where we went out early and kind of staked our place kind of by Cove Cafe, where they have those couches, and we would bring our Kindles. We packed, I definitely recommend this for anyone going on an Alaskan cruise. We packed these packable down blankets. So they're easy to pack because they're very lightweight, and they can be, rolled up into almost like a ball. And it was just the most relaxing mornings, just looking out and reading a book, watching the world go by, and, seeing whales. And it was, if every morning could start like that, oh man, life is great already, but yeah, that would be amazing. It was just spectacular.
You're making me want to go back on an Alaskan cruise.
I'm making myself want to go back too.
It's so good. It's just so different than any other type of cruise. I think probably maybe one of the closest comparisons would be doing like those Norwegian fjord type cruises, probably, Steve. But still, there's something really, really unique and iconic about these Alaskan sailings.
Definitely. Just an amazing, beautiful part of the world to go and explore. So as we finish up tonight, Jessica, is there anything else, any other tips that you'd like to offer out to people who may be sailing to Alaska this year with Disney, and hopefully they go this year or next year?
Yeah, so Disney Cruise Line, they offer Alaska-specific merchandise, and it changes every year. And we were on the second sailing, so they still had a lot in stock. We definitely went on the first day to kind of get our merchandise, and they were sold out of a lot of things, later in the cruise. So I would say if you got your eye on something, they usually will release kind of a merchandise preview before the sailing start. But if there's something you're eyeing, I would definitely recommend buying it. There was a lot of things that were sold out kind of later in the cruise. So jump on it early.
Yeah, that's actually a good tip for any sailing. Even some of those Caribbean sailings where it's like they don't have quite as much specialty. If you have your eye on like a Spirit jersey or something, they might sell out of your size just because they only bring so much on each sailing, right? And so if they run out, and then they restock when they get back to port. But obviously you'll be off the ship by then and you'll have missed out. So it's a good idea if you go to the shops on that first night and you see something, go ahead and buy it then, unless you're not going to be devastated by not getting it later, because they definitely do sell out of stuff as the cruise goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jessica, thanks again for coming back on and sharing your guys' bucket list and just amazing cruise up to Alaska. Well, what's next for you guys? What do you guys have planned next?
We had planned a trip to Hawaii and we were going to go to Aulani, but that trip is going to be postponed due to kind of the state of the world right now. So we're trying to figure out a different time to go check out Aulani. We're also currently planning to do a 5-night trip on the Fantasy in September down to, I think it's going to Mexico and Castaway Cay.
A 5-night on the Fantasy? They don't run very many of those, do they?
They do not, and that's why I'm really excited about this cruise, because we've never done a cruise on the Fantasy. We tend to do slightly shorter cruises just because it's easier to get time off of work and that sort of thing. So I'm really excited about that.
Fun. A 5-night on the Fantasy and Castaway Cay. Best place.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, Jessica, thanks again for coming on. I'm sorry about your trip to Aulani, but hopefully that will work it back into your schedule sometime soon. And we really appreciate all your inside knowledge with Alaska. No pun intended, or maybe it was a pun intended with the inside passage. I need to come up with that. I'm terrible with my dad jokes, aren't I, Chris?
Terrible or amazing. It just depends on your perspective.
Yeah. But when you guys get back from that Fantasy cruise, if you decide to jump on something sooner, we'd love to have you come back on, Jessica.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, thanks again. Be well, and we will talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Jessica for coming back on and sharing her and her husband's bucket list trip up to Alaska on the beautiful Disney Wonder. Of course, it's the summer of 2020. The ships are not sailing right now, and all of Alaska has been canceled. But let's keep our fingers crossed that she will be back up there in 2021 sailing. And for all of you planning on sailing to Alaska next year, we sure hope this trip report helps you out when you're looking and thinking about your planning for your cruise upcoming next year. The DCL Podcast is a listener-supported podcast, so we sure do appreciate each and every one of you coming back and taking a listen each and every week. If you would like to help support our show, you can do so via our Patreon program. Go over to patreon.com/DCL Podcast, and you can find out all the information there on supporting our show. If you would like to participate in our show, come on and talk about your Disney Cruise Line Adventures by Disney or Run Disney experience, you can reach out to me, Steve, at DCLpodcast.com, and we'll do the best we can to get you lined up, recorded, and get your show out there as well. So between now and our next show, if you are headed out somewhere this summer on some type of alternate adventure, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you safe travels, be well, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.